Sathariel, the victim, or are they? Also known as the Angel of Deception. This is a pretty interesting backstory to this canon event here. Sathariel, one of the reasons, or I guess the reason, the nature that caused them to fall to become a fallen watcher, as in the Book of Enoch, was teaching mankind the art of deception. Lies, illusion, performance, things like that. And if you've been on the channel for any length of time, you'll know I don't take a hard stance on lying is bad. And it depends on the context. Like, did you clock somebody from across the bar and knew they immediately were not going to take no for an answer, so you had the I have a partner, ready in the back pocket? That sort of deception, that's protection. What they're talking about in the background of the victim here is that Sathariel is this performer and was going to give the performance of a lifetime. But when the big dramatic climax to the performance came, they realized that the knives had been switched by her, whoever her is. There's two women in this. I'm kind of thinking it's a woman at the top, but I'm not sure. And one of the thoughts to themselves were, did she know? So they're not even sure if this was intentional or this was an accident, that the real knife that was intended for her to give that dramatic performance, the shock value and all that, actually ended up in the unintended hand. So that's definitely not the protection type of deception, but it's an interesting vibe, and one that I'm actually kind of having a difficult time getting into, which I think is kind of representative of deception not wanting to be seen. So we'll get a symbol out here to see if we can kind of get the nature of just what is this situation? What is this performance? What the heck's going on? Because it seems very precise. At least that's how it comes across. So on the dice roll, I originally got Uranus, which the talk of the town recently. But when I set the dice down, it flipped over to Pluto. So it's a pretty dramatic change, revolutionary change. And then we have Sagittarius in the 6th house. And that's, an arrow and being analytical, being a perfectionist. So I'm just getting like the shot heard round the world, like just such precision in that one thing, whatever this is. So I guess I do kind of get the sense she had to have known, because they would have felt different to whomever picked them up and got them ready. Psychic. Maybe she didn't know. It's in reverse. So that must be a big conundrum in regards to whatever is going on. An action that was taken with a larger implication, but maybe not fully understanding. I don't know, if we want to stick with the arrow example, it's like loosing an arrow, and then that person that it lands in lands on the big red button. Like something like that, some sort of chain of events. So tell me more. Let's see, what else about not psychic? Or this is mundane. This is like maybe something so precise it seems supernatural, but it's not. Like, how could it possibly not be divine intervention or something? As the clock chimes. Oh, and that did a little topsy-turvy. It would have come out reversed if I flipped it like I normally do. This is in Italian. Knight of Cups. I don't speak Italian. Or read it. Do alright with reading Spanish. But I like the artwork. That, like, medieval. So, Knight of Cups. A message of emotion. And this cup, usually it's the Queen of Cups that has the lid on her chalice. So that's more concealment. I don't know if it's necessarily more deception, but it's concealment at a minimum. Ugh. It's bringing me back to my, like, early example of somebody, like, you get the creeps from them across the bar and, like, now you're covering your drink. But it's like a veiled message. And I don't necessarily mean like a coded message, but like somebody's not seeing the full truth. Because like Sathariel wouldn't have announced like one of these is a prop knife and one of these is the real deal. Not to pull off this drama of a lifetime. So what else about the Knight of Cups? I don't know who the Knight of Cups is in regards to this little play here. Well, maybe, who is that? Lothario? That's Shakespeare, but I don't remember who. Where is this? I remember the name. It came up out of nowhere. Lothario. I spelled that wrong. A libertine and unscrupulous seducer of women. Was this not Shakespeare? Don Quixote? Did I pronounce that right? I don't know if I did. But like a Don Juan, Casanova. Well, and Ace of Wands, that's very phallic, if you will. And the King of Cups, too. But in reverse. So not being honest about being manipulative. Because that's like the master of emotions. But somebody who's using them the wrong way. And this cup doesn't have a lid on it, so it's like everything's spilling out. Somebody who says what needs to be said to gain access, like sexual access to someone's body, which I think technically is actually sexual coercion. That's a predatory behavior because you're not even giving them the option to fully consent because they're not being honest. Can't consent to something that they're being deceived about. And I kind of get the sense that it's remorseless. Like, as long as the gain is gotten, it doesn't matter if it's ill-gotten or not. I'm trying to connect that back to this performance. What is that connection here? Why the romance connection, not even romance, but the carnal connection to the weapon being swapped? Spiritual cleansing. Well, and this is the last card in the deck, so finale. Getting a weird like, I've used this phrase recently and I don't like it, but destiny swap. But I'm more getting like a sacrifice. And I don't hope it's not literal. Hope it's just a weird metaphor, but like a sacrificial lamb that bit back. Maybe they didn't even know that they were the lamb. It was just a lamb trying to survive, you know? Because that's what living things do. To extreme ends is try and survive. But spiritual cleansing, so tell me more about that. Spiritual cleansing. It's like if they could get the sacrificial lamb in their place, then it's like the payment will have been made. The sentence will have been commuted for the thing, for whatever. That's not how it works. I mean, it might get away with that in, like, human law, but just in the greater scheme of things, I don't think so. I don't think that would go unaddressed. Might not be, heck, might not even be in this lifetime, but it's a sort of thing that, I don't know. So many of us that spend our lives on the margin just get let down over and over by the system. We kind of have to have faith that it'll be made right in some way. Because this world isn't giving us anything else. Just not. Three of Cups in reverse. And there's 3 people in this victim card. And that's normally like a celebration, so didn't prevail, wasn't successful. Which, if someone's trying to sacrifice someone innocent, metaphorically, what have you, I would prefer that it didn't work out. You know, I think so many of us are starved for either justice in our own lives or just seeing it occur on the grander scale. I think this is the page. Fonte? It doesn't look like a queen to me. So I'm going to go with page. but they're holding a lid, even though there's one already there. And a page is a student. And it's all cups so far. Student of emotions. Failed to regulate their emotions. Because this is like, I mean, we can kind of stick with that entitlement, as the clock chimes, but entitlement theme that kind of seems to be emerging. Because if someone is going to lie to access someone's body, that's entitlement. And then if they're going to try and sacrifice someone else, like their reputation, something like that, instead of actually taking accountability for being the one that did the thing, that's entitlement. And that's not going to keep people around, that's for sure. At least not for very long. Not once they figure out what has happened. And it was found out, inevitably, what happened when the weapon switched hand. Just disbelief that this sacrificial lamb could have bit back. Could have possibly outsmarted the wolf. Maybe. Oh, and sequential. But both reversed. 6 and 7 of cups. More cups. There are other things besides cups in this deck. So not the soulmate and illusions revealed. Not feeling nostalgic. Realizing the nature of the sacrificial lamb. They're not who they thought they were. And it's illusions revealed on all sides that maybe this person was a stand-up person, whatever. Because I think, trying to think of like some entitlement examples. Like it's kind of when like the red pill manosphere will say, but I did these things, like checkbox, checkbox, checkbox. Now give me a woman. Like that, it's very transactional. That's supposed to be for stuff like work. Like I met the goals that you told me to meet. Where's my raise? Like that was the agreement. And then the goalpost moves, inevitably. But the same type of person who would move goalposts where they have power, like if they're in a position of authority, something like that, where they move goalposts for other people, they expect the bar to be on the floor for them. That's that entitlement attitude. And it can get very covert because it gets kind of wrapped up in moral language and being principled and things like that. And there's a lot of love bombing that can go into gaining access to someone or something that if you were honest, you wouldn't gain access to it. or them. So, and I mean, in this case, in the example of the victim, that'd be like fame, notoriety. So whatever panders to their ego. So what are they trying to gain access to? Or what? What panders to their ego? Kind of more curious about that. Because if you know the framework, if you know the mechanics, it's kind of irrelevant what they're after specifically. Like maybe not for if it's a business or the person themselves that they're lying to gain access to, but it's good to know like the underworkings. So what's the ego trip here? Courage? The Leo? Like the Heart of a Lion, but like the Wizard of Oz, because it's in reverse. No heart. And these are all cups almost. So emotional manipulation? I mean, that kind of makes sense with this example. That's what makes them feel good about themselves? Man, it's almost like just the example that came to mind. It's like somebody that uses a different persona. Almost, I want to say like multiple nights a week, something like that. Just to see if they can. A new story, a new character, something. But it's like someone that they get built up by building others up with false promises, with things like that, and then crushing their dreams. Crushing the picture of the future that they painted, that they went out of their way to interrupt this person's life, that they could have just left them alone and like gone to therapy instead. What a concept. But instead just like to torment people. Like, for goodness sake, read a book or something. Like, pick something that's not hurtful to other people. So what about this lack of heart? I mean, you'd have to have no heart to do stuff like this. Because that entitlement attitude is like, they'll go on a rampage and gallivant about and do this to a bunch of different people, but if someone were to do it to them, God forbid, like it'd be the end of the world. And they almost wouldn't be able to conceptualize, maybe even wouldn't be able to conceptualize, that this is exactly how they treat other people. And what goes around is what comes around is very Western interpretation of karma, but it's at least a point of reflection and go like, this feels familiar. I don't know. We've got the world in reverse. Cycle's not over. I almost feel like this would be someone who is going to like a Addictions Anonymous group. In this case, it might be like Sex Addicts Anonymous, something like that. But they're not really doing the work. They're taking attendance. You know, they're getting their coin, what have you. I know they do that for AA. I don't know if they do that for the other ones. Maybe they do, because the candle's flickering. Take that as a yes. I'm sure they give you something. At a minimum, coffee and a donut, right? But this is like someone who is so deceptive, they'll just say whatever needs to be said. And I don't know. There are a lot of instances where, especially in like a he said, she said sort of situation, where the person who has shown even bad patterns of behavior, they're given even more chances, as if they didn't already use their chances to ruin other people's lives. And then the victims, there's all this undue burden placed on them because this person keeps reoffending. And so they either have to remain engaged with the legal system, or they end up unalived. Because how many times do we see headlines that, like, oh, person with background with repeat offenses or whatever leaves jail to go take out kids and ex-spouse. Something like that. It's, I was going to say travesty, but really it's an emergency how often that sort of thing happens. Unfortunately, we don't have the type of leadership that would declare any sort of state of emergency or do anything meaningful about it. But, which I'd love to be proved wrong on. That's one of those things, like, please, by all means, prove me wrong. There's the Queen of Cups. The whole family's here. Goodness gracious. What is going on? I don't think this has ever happened to me in a reading before. The candle seems to agree. But the entire court cards of one single suit coming out. And the Queen of Cups, she'd be extremely manipulative. Doesn't necessarily have to be a woman. It could be someone in more, I want to say yin energy, as the candle pops. And I've been trying to think about like different ways to think about this binary we always kind of fall into with the feminine and the masculine and whatnot. But the yin and yang Taoism, that's like positive and negative, and not necessarily like good and bad, but negative like receptive, like an absence of matter, if that makes sense. A little bit of a sidebar there. But this threw me for a loop. All 4 court cards from one suit, huh? If this has developed into a legal thing, you know, just sticking with that example, maybe there's either a like-minded group involved, or maybe it's a family affair. I don't know. Maybe somebody's got an attorney in their family or something. Go with that one. The devil. Okay. Interesting. A whole family of manipulators? Because that kind of behavior of like manipulate to get your way, that can absolutely be passed down. I'm not really sure what makes the difference in whether or not someone takes after. Like, I mean, really poor examples for parenting or not. I don't know if that's just random output or if there's, I don't know, is it empathy that makes the difference? Could be. But the devil's contracts, too. I can't quite make sense of that part, but it feels kind of relevant in some way. Contracts. And normally, in the devil card, they've got two people chained up, but the demons are grabbing at the devil in this one. He's also standing on one. This is almost like a demise of your own making, of their own making. That their demons are catching up to them. That these actions, these lies, this deception, this performance is now catching up. Because that, with Sathariel, they wouldn't have even had the opportunity to be stabbed had they not left that weapon there themselves. They were the cause. The fault, the responsibility, the everything. The sacrificial lamb, whoever that represents, that's you, someone you know, they have a right to defend themselves. That's another aspect of entitlement, is that that type of personality feels justified in coming at whomever is the target of their vitriol. Maybe they've just been holding a grudge for a really long time, and it could be something very petty, like they lent you a pen and you accidentally pocketed it. Something like that. Could feel... I just don't like the example. It just came to mind. Like somebody that uses deception to gain access to others' bodies, and you didn't fall for it. You're just like, nope, not interested. Like, I felt a chill in the air when I walked into this place. I didn't even need to, yeah, no, I'm good. Or maybe you're just in a relationship, I don't know. But it's okay to say no. Like, the word no isn't going to hurt you. And it actually reminds me of a role play that it was a question in a meeting, and it was basically say no without using the word no, which I don't like that attitude. Because that same sort of entitlement that ends up being encouraged and empowered, enabled in the workplace by tiptoeing around the word no, that the sky's not going to fall if somebody tells you no. But that same sort of entitlement that gets empowered that way gets taken home. And there'll be all sorts of like justifications that, well, work is work and home is home. that's still one mind in multiple places. That mind is still carrying all of the information in between all of the places. There is no delineation. There's no separation. It's just masking. And I just think it doesn't register with, I don't know, a lot of people in general, that there are far-reaching consequences to seemingly simple things, like creating a culture where the word no is demonized. Saying no is about the healthiest thing you can do for yourself. No is probably the healthiest word you have in your vocabulary, and we tiptoe around it because we don't want to upset anybody. You're not going to die from being upset. Like, in and of itself, from someone telling you no, it's not the end of the world. And we just tiptoe around it. I don't know, it annoys me that we encourage that kind of behavior. People can be so entitled. But what is the proverbial knife in this scenario? Oh, what is it called? Rejection, sensitivity, dysphoria. So it might feel like the end of the world, but it's not. And that's what therapy is for. To assist with that. And not to, like, belittle anybody or anything. It really, like, they are there to help. Because it's not only a problem for you, it's a problem for everybody around, whoever cannot handle rejection. And sometimes fatally. Like, that can't be overstated. So what is the proverbial knife in this scenario? The divine feminine. Or the divine yin. Good follow-up to my little rant, my little sidebar. But it's in reverse. So it does feel like a rejection of some sort. It doesn't necessarily have to be like rejection of a sexual advance, something like that. Could be romantic, could be even friendship. It could be I don't know, maybe you were the free therapist for a really long time and you started setting boundaries, or if it was like a friendship thing, maybe you got into a relationship and suddenly weren't as available for that friendship, something like that. Or somebody that, I don't know, was like waiting in the wings for you or them to be single or something, and that's more of that entitlement. The expecting someone's marital status to impact your interest in them. I think there's like a difficult time conceptualizing that no, some people can actually just be friends with others. Because what about bisexuals? Are we just not supposed to have friends at all, ever? That's not fair. That's not healthy. So what about this divine feminine? Divine yin. What else do we need to know? So she's the... Maybe it's the her that is referenced in this card. 7 of Wands. That's the Be still and know that I am God card. Surrender, faith. It's holding your position after a victory. And that is something that's typically like attributed in this context, I think, a lot to the divine feminine. That more receptive energy of things are going to go the way they're going to go. There's only so much I can do. But I'm also getting it's like the divine feminine that knows her worth. So somebody that just knew all the red flags of Sathariel. Like, I've done this song and dance before, I know this is a game, I'm not even gonna bother. And is unapologetic about it. And that can be jarring because of the aforementioned, we keep getting unalived at remarkable rates. It's a bit of a gamble, you know, and I'm of the thinking that, of course, safety first. If you know that it's going to put you in danger doing something, you might want to reconsider. On the other hand, if you peep the proverbial actual knife and swap them and have the ability to do that, and it's in the interest of your own defense, why not? They were about to do it to you. Like, what's the problem? I don't see the problem. They'll probably see a problem with it. And I don't care. Because why would I? Why would I care if someone who was about to hurt me gets hurt? I'm not going to go out of my way to do anything to harm them, but if it's in that kind of close proximity moment and I have to defend myself because I'm being put in a it's either you or me situation, it's going to be you. And I will go to the ends of the earth to make sure I am the one that comes out in that moment. Maybe they weren't ready for that. Maybe they weren't ready for the sacrificial lamb to actually also be a wolf in sheep's clothing. It's like some of the horror art that I follow. There's a lot of lambs and wolves and such involved. It can get a little dark. And we've got the Two of Cups and the Ace of Cups. So many cups. Very emotional. But that's like the pairing, but it's not right. Oh. I'm kind of getting this is like somebody who wants to be like a twin flame or something, or like a divine masculine, but they're not. Like they want to be that healed, seen as the good guy, seen as the provider, seen as the protector, but without actually doing the stuff. They want all the respect and none of the responsibilities of that role. And that's the kind of thing entitled people will use, is that type of language. The soulmates, twin flames, we're meant to be, they'll text you at like 11:11, stuff like that. All sorts of really subtle things that if you were to question that out loud, you would sound crazy. You would sound like the insane one. And it's really foundational gaslighting, really laying that out to like be ready to use at a later date. But it's like they're unwilling to face the things within themselves that are holding them back from actually becoming the even-keeled divine masculine, if you want to put it that way. So also very concerned with perception. Because I'm not in the camp that follows the whole twin flame thing. Like, to each your own. I'm more of a, like, I've used the red string of fate example, but I'm really more of a red web of fate. Because I feel like we come into this life with our own lessons to learn, whatever that may be for us as individuals, and you can learn those within multiple contexts with multiple people. There's this real hyper-fixation on romance that we're leaving out all this richness of the other aspects of life, of friendship, of self-development, of really finding work that is rewarding and gives you a sense of community and things like that. Everything is just so transactional. There's no heart to it. There's no Ace of Cups. So I think ultimately it's the self-empowerment that overcomes the original plan, whatever that was, to set up the sacrificial lamb. Maybe for a downfall of some sort. Maybe this is like a romance scam trying to snatch some cash, something like that. Get out of a, I don't know, legal situation with some sort of scapegoat, like swapping places. Interesting. Sounds tricky though, whatever it is. And a very entitled person, which means don't let your guard down. Like, people can change if they really put in the effort, but it takes a long time for that to really develop and take hold and things like that. But we've got A Walk in the Park and Oxytocin by Billie Eilish. And see, that oxytocin, that's the feel-good hormone. You get it from hugs, from affection, from all sorts of things. And I think, I don't know, maybe if you see a little baby rabbit or something, or deer, might get a release of oxytocin. You go walking in the park. And it's starting to get nicer, too. So it's a good time for it. So just be diligent, you know. It's always good to be cautious with meeting new people, especially in a dating context and things like that. And if they're trying to push past a timeline that, like, you knew you were already comfortable with in regards to, like, intimacy, or suddenly start texting every day or something, and they influence you to, like, self-abandon, to back off on those boundaries, that's your red flag. That something is going on, that, like, your foundation is being chipped away at. And a walk in the park, either with or without some good music, can help clear your head. So, overall, I hope this helps. I hope this resonates, and if it doesn't, I hope the next one does. Thank you so much.